how do I increase AI literacy, not just have spiky parts of my team that leaned in really early and have those be the go-to people for all things AI and everybody else not really getting comfortable. We have to lift the AI literacy of everybody on the team. 45% of organizations report improved employee productivity because of Gen AI. We now within Google overall have essentially an AI marketing toolbox to use all of the different technology. So every week, there's a new, essentially, AI challenge that goes out. It's a little 10-minute learning experience where you learn about a technology like Gem and then you try it. And so it's one of the ways that we are training up our whole team to see all the technology that's available in these kind of bite-sized learning experiences.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Marketing Trends. This is your host, as always, Jeremy Bergeron. I'm super excited. Alison Wagonfeld is the Chief Marketing Officer of Google Cloud. Think of, Google Cloud Platform and Google Workspace. She's been at Google for over 8 years. We laugh and say, you blink, it'll be 10 years. So this is someone who's been through some major moves when it comes to, think about rebranding G Suite to Google Workspace. That was a big one. Also, continuing to position Google Cloud as a major leader in AI data and hybrid cloud, right? This person has seen many things. So, Alison, thank you so much for being on Marketing Trends. We're super excited to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. This is fun for me to be able to chat with you about all things marketing. And of course, now it's going to be all things AI and marketing.
Seriously, you blew our minds right when you hopped in before we pressed record, which let's just get right into it, Alison, because I was chatting with Hillary about the future of marketing trends and where podcasting and media is going, and AI is weaving its way into every part of the world of media and storytelling. And then Alison hops on the show. She hops into the recording studio and she's I'm not going to steal your thunder, Alison. Could you please just take us into what you just showed us? Because I think this is where we're headed, people.
Yeah, so we were just talking about some of my favorite AI tools that I use every day, and I referenced NotebookLM, which is at the top of my list right now. So those of you who are not familiar with it, it's basically a product that Google has put out where you can drop in a PDF or a link or a video or docs, drive whatever, and it will create a summary and questions. But one of my favorite parts is it creates a podcast, a synthetic podcast. And so I had asked Jeremy, I said, are you going to have a tough time if I actually include on your show a podcast about marketing trends? And he's like, no, bring it on. So I said, okay, well, let me just share it with you so you know what it's going to be all about. And he's like, okay. And so now I'm going to play for you something that I just purely by dropping in the link of marketing trends, this new podcast emerged. So let me go ahead and play it.
All right. So you're looking for the rundown on Mission's Marketing Trends podcast.
Right.
Well, buckle up because this deep dive is going to break it all down for you. We're going to tell you what it's all about and, most importantly, why you should absolutely be tuning in.
It's the access that gets me. Listening to this show, it's like you're sitting in on a masterclass in marketing leadership. It's straight from the people who are actually out there shaping the industry.
No kidding. We're talking some serious heavy hitters here.
Oh, yeah. You've got folks from ESPN, Campbell Soup, Morgan Stanley, 3M. It's a who's who of marketing.
Like getting a peek behind the curtain.
All right.
Seeing how they actually think, not just what they do.
Exactly. And the topics, super diverse. One episode, you've got Linda Lee, the CMO of Campbell Soup.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
All right. So that was purely based on one link of putting in. And so it was gone out there and sharing. It would have played for 12 more minutes if I let it, and probably done a rundown of whatever NotebookLM could find on your website. But that was created in about, maybe 60 seconds. From dropping in the link to getting that podcast. And those, you can now adjust the voices, adjust the length, target it on different areas. So as I said, it created a synthetic podcast using AI.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. This was just the hyperlink to our home, to our Marketing Trends webpage. This was go to our website, click on Marketing Trends, and that's all this information was being pulled from. And now I have another tab open on my computer, thanks to you. So NotebookLM is definitely going to be. I'm going way deeper there. I mean, it's like having this like really intelligent assistant that's analyzing and summarizing and organizing these things effortlessly, right? And we're talking about some legitimate, actionable insights based on very little. That's incredible. So you saw it first, people. You saw it first.
Yeah, so super fun, but that's just one example of what we're starting to see. And now the key is figuring out how to use this incredible technology as marketers. And some of it's, to play around with it, but some of it's really to integrate it into our workflows. So it's all over the place. But when I kind of think back from when I started in 2016 here to where we are now, that's part of what blows my mind is the speed of the technology improvement, particularly the acceleration in the last 2 years as AI is really permeated effectively everything that we do.
I'm sure that you have to pull on some many tools in the Alison tool belt, right? There's strategy and leadership and managing and, conflict resolution and all the things that you get to, pull on this massive tool belt that you built over the years. Where is AI coming along to support, accelerate, augment, like just what you do in your role leading, global marketing for Google Cloud?
It's super interesting because we're living right now at this intersection of marketing AI and using AI for marketing. And it's part of what makes the job and the work we're doing so fascinating. So in the second category, how are we using AI for marketing? I say it really runs the gamut. It's everything from within Google Workspace. I don't know if you're a Workspace user, but within
Yes,
Workspace,
absolutely.
we have Gemini for Workspace. And so I keep my side panel open. So that's rolled out now where within Docs, asking questions or summarizing. I use it within Slides to generate images. I've been using it now. Our team is using it for B2B marketing. Sometimes it used to take like a week or two to take an asset and create a landing page and get it all up and going and make sure that it's like sliced and diced in all the different ways to get it out in different channels. That now takes a minute or so because we're building out this marketing studio. So it's effectively all over the map, but increasingly I've been using NotebookLM. Sometimes I'll get a set of customer feedback, maybe from like a focus group or something, or if we're testing some new positioning, can drop it in there and get a summary. We recently ran a MLB campaign. I don't know if you watched the World Series, but hopefully if you did, you saw some of Google Cloud in there. And we created some different ad spots and would put in some of the scripts for the ad spots and essentially ask AI, like, how might this type of audience perceive this? How could this be better? Is it clearer? So it's effectively assistant built into all parts of our days. But increasingly, I think will be a core part of our workflows as now we're really building in some lead follow-up and those aspects as well.
There's something that I'm just like, I gotta have an understanding of your experience kind of overseeing such a big portfolio of products, right? I mean, we're not talking about, one little product that's serving, a small segment. You're talking about, major products that all have their own initiatives and their own, technology and leaders and the teams that are supporting those leaders. Just how do you look at the ecosystem that is Google Cloud? Like one thing that I see is you've been there for as long as you have, which tells me you've been able to keep this really beautiful, balance of, okay, how do we lead? How do we know where the puck is going? How do we get there in a really efficient way? But it's a massive product suite. It's a big team. It's got all of its challenges. How do you hold it all as a leader? How do you know where to go in and where to? Yeah, I just imagine it being so much intel and information that you've got to assess where you're focusing and prioritizing, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest parts about being a CMO in any context is that there's so much inputs and priorities. Yeah, just to scope the business right now. So we just crossed over a $44 billion run rate. And that's the part of Google Cloud. We just had our earnings last week.
Amazing.
Great growth and quarter over quarter for Google Cloud. Well, actually, it was great earnings for Google overall. And also profitability, which has emerged in the last couple of years. Because when I started 8 years ago, maybe we were like $2 to $3 billion business and not profitable at that time. So really, really hyper growth period. And so in terms of my role, so it's across all of Google Cloud, which is essentially Google Cloud Platform, which is everything from the infrastructure, so something we call AI hypercomputer, all the way through Vertex AI to build with AI and building AI agents, to databases, to BigQuery, to analytics, to security. So a big Google Cloud platform set of portfolio, as well as Google Workspace. And so the apps that everybody loves for their personal or for their kids, everything, the doc sheets, Drive, all of that. So we sell all of that in a business context for organizations. And we're truly global business. And so the challenges are really thinking about what do we need, thinking 2025? What do we want to be focusing on more next year? How do we think about the portfolio that we have of marketing initiatives? How are we using our events, for example, our Google Cloud Next event in April to highlight all of the new that's coming? How do we think about reaching out to developers? That's been an increasingly important aspect, particularly because developers are such the tastemakers for AI right now. And so, of course, we're marketing and thinking about how to reach decision makers, but it's really the kind of twofold part of the developers and the decision makers. So we think about the different audiences, we think about the different products, we think about the ecosystem with our partners, all of these pieces coming together. And also thinking about how do we live within the broader Google ecosystem? Because, of course, we use Gemini within what we're marketing and producing in Google Cloud, but Gemini is also a key part of the rest of Google. So hopefully people use the Gemini app and chat with that. And so how do we integrate with the best of all of Google, but also highlight specifically for our audience? What does that mean? I don't think there's a magic formula for this. I think it's having a great team. I think it's having really clear OKRs. Google manages through objectives and key results, and having a really clear set of target outcomes that we're thinking about, ensuring that those are lined up and everybody in the organization understands how their role ladders up to the core objectives that we're trying to do, always keeping our customers at the center of it and making sure that as marketers, we're spending enough time with the customers directly and with our sales team and all of the go-to-market teams that are working with the customers, while also spending time with all of the technology leaders, the GMs and the product leaders, the engineers, so we know what's coming. And within marketing, our CMO of all of Google, Lorraine Tuhill, talks about this concept of know the user, which in our case are all of the users of Google Cloud, know the magic, which is all the technology. And our job of marketers is connecting the two. And so that's, if we keep that top of mind of connecting the users and the magic, that is always a good North Star.
There's the intangibles about being a CMO such as yourself, with the experience that and perspective that you have. I mean, there's ability just to lead leaders, right? And across a portfolio of products that are really changing, especially introduce AI. And we're talking about acceleration of everything now. If you could kind of think about the last several years, what do you think from a soft skill, or just, what's some of the things that you think have been able to position you to, again, be the one that they're trusting? Hey, like, in some ways you've had to see where this thing's headed, and you've gotten it right in many ways. You're still there kicking ass and taking names. So how do you build the trust there? What do you think, what's been able to position you to be consistently, strong in that role of leader over the past almost 10 years?
I think one of the things that I've gotten much better at, and with the help of our team, is what we call rhythm of the business, and really being able to think every quarter. We have a quarterly marketing review of looking at all of our objectives of that quarter. And it's focused on what did we learn, not just what did we do. And so that we're constantly learning from each other and then using that to inform the future of where do we want to go. And being in that kind of learning organization and being able to have the hard conversations as a team with each other and say, like, is this working or is this not working? And if this isn't working, how do we work together to make it work better? Or what do we think we can do next year? Because it's a journey, whether we're building campaigns or we're trying to connect the campaigns we build to the revenue outcomes all the way through. There's a technical element of being able to link together all the systems to really understand how the inputs affect the outputs. And I think it's having both a short-term view, like this sense of urgency, but also a longer-term view of where are we trying to get 6, 12, 18, 24 months from now, so that we can build toward the future that we want to be marketing in and being able to make the best decisions with the right information.
One could say that, as you're planning out the next 12 months, as you're kind of shaping the strategy for Google Cloud and Google Workspace and, where this business gets to head, I mean, Google as an organization, they have an ability to, there's not unlimited, but virtually unlimited resources and abilities to move things quick, to test and iterate, to fail fast, there's so many things you get to do. And you're also sitting kind of, again, at this intersection where you've got, the major players, AWS, and Microsoft and Google. We're all sitting at the table, and each of these organizations have access to talent, access to resources, access to seeing where they think the puck is headed. Knowing that you have that ability and capability, and you've got the team of amazing people that are supporting this, and you also look to your right and your left and you see the competition and you see innovation. How do you view the best way to move forward when you can do many things and so can they?
I mean, certainly looking at the competitive dynamic is critical and it's evolving. So 2 years ago, we would have not said OpenAI and ChatGPT was a key competitor. But of course, now they are increasingly showing up in enterprise conversations that we're showing up in. You can't even have always a defined set of competitors. I mean, of course, AWS and Microsoft are big competitors as well. But there's also a number of startups that we keep eyes on as well. So we have to spend time looking externally and looking out to the market and seeing what's happening, but can't get overly rotated on what competitors are doing, because where I was talking before is kind of know the magic. We know what technology we're building. We know where we have really great technology strengths. So for example, we have integrated an optimized set of technology that starts with the chips and the TPUs that we have all the way through to the agents that we can bring to market and allow people to build with. And we have to really understand, okay, why does that matter? In what cases is that working for? Where are our customers happiest? And really starting with customer success as a core North Star element. Because if we are delivering for our customers, then we can keep leaning into that and really using our customers as the best storytellers and having it not just be Google says or Google Cloud says, but having customers like Carrefour or Warner Brothers or some of these, Puma, all recently, Snap shared stories about, for example, how they're using our AI and highlighting them as the best ways to tell what's possible.
You mentioned AI agents. I want to kind of click on that. I know that's been one of the many hot topics that a lot of brands have been talking about lately. I know Salesforce, Dreamforce, they spend a bunch of time talking about their agents, and I'm talking to a lot of technologists, and it seems like there's a race, in this world of AI agents and the capability of an AI agent. I know Google's right there as well. Just give us kind of your perspective and opinion on AI agents as a utility and the use cases that you're seeing are really exciting, and then again, using that word, kind of where's the puck headed regarding AI agents, and kind of where do you see it all going?
Yeah, so I think about AI agents in a number of different categories. So we have, for example, creative agents, where we would highlight how a company like Puma has built an agent to help them create customized creative specifically for their audiences. And then they can customize that creative, and it does better in market when it's relevant. If you're marketing in Japan and you show Japanese landscape or cityscape, that audience there will feel like that marketing is more relevant and it performs better. So there's agents like that. There's employee agents where it's helping employees better draft or communicate. We recently shared a story of Randstad, which is one of the world's biggest recruiting companies, and helping their employees move faster to create the best job descriptions in any language around the world. And so we think of agents as a collection of technology that uses AI as a core part of it, but to achieve a set of outcomes, that's often a business set of outcomes, as opposed to just a single piece of technology. But it always starts with the why. Like, what are you using this agent for, and what outcomes do I hope to achieve with this? Or if it's to be able to better engage with customers so we can answer their questions faster, than we might use agents to help customer service reps, or this is our customer engagement suite, for example, is like a packaged application, which is an agent to help customers be able to get their questions answered. So I think you'll increasingly hear the concept of agents in terms of being built. What I think we will start hearing more is, are agents working on behalf of a whole team, or can individuals have agents that are working on their behalf? And I think that's a lot of what will evolve over next year. And will agents ever be able to communicate with each other? And if you kind of built an agent, as an agent to agent communication as opposed to human, or not as opposed to, but in addition to, and what would that supplement look like? And these are what we're building together and experimenting with, and what makes it so interesting.
And then Vertex AI Agent Builder is also a thing that people can use to deploy agents now, right?
Yeah. So what happens is people go into Google Cloud Platform, and then they can use Vertex AI. And within Vertex, we have something called the Model Garden, which allows you to choose Google's models like Gemini to build with, or you could use third-party models like Anthropic's models, Claude, for example. And then there's technology built in there to create an agent that allows you to achieve an outcome. For example, and some companies might not call these agents, but we recently showed a story for Warner Brothers where they enabled people to create captions much faster. So it used to be humans would type up captions after listening to, a recording or an event or something like that. And now they have essentially Caption AI that automatically generates the captions. And then the human basically approves and gets it done. And she talked about how what used to take hours can sometimes take minutes now, and being able to make that shift so that the humans on the team can then work in higher value added areas. And so these are just different types of examples where AI is coming into play.
It's just, it's incredible to just be witnessing it, and also there's also a part of us like that's contributing to where this is all headed, and absolutely incredible. I mean, I feel like I'm always thinking of, okay, what's next, and then what, and
Yeah.
how rapidly we're getting there, and the utility of some of these agents, like you said, across these different functions of customer or marketing or creative, content, etc. Like, it becomes this real superpower. Do you spend much time with GPT and Claude? Do you kind of keep those as kind of part of your tool belt to use and test and keep your hand on the pulse there? Or are you just only Gemini all the way, all day, every day Gemini?
I certainly play with some of the other products as well. And,
Okay.
Sometimes we'll try a certain prompt with Gemini and then try it with other, ChatGPT or other areas to see how it's diverging. It's been great to see the speed of improvement of Gemini. I know early on we were playing catch up a little bit, but now I feel like Gemini is in a really good place. And there's a lot of times where I hear from friends and others that used to use ChatGPT, and now they're like, oh, Gemini is really working for me now. And the integration of Gemini with some of our workspace apps and others really makes a difference from a productivity standpoint.
I was going to ask about productivity, just in like what you're seeing. I mean, I saw it was like 45% productivity increase or something. There was some kind of stat I saw that was just incredible to see. Are you seeing that in the marketing org and seeing how fast AI has accelerated productivity?
Yeah, I mean, so I can share some data from a study we did recently about the ROI of Gen AI. And that's where we saw it, where 45% of organizations report improved employee productivity because of Gen AI. So the question is like, where is that showing up and how is that showing up? And so we've been doing some surveys in our own team about how you're using AI. And even between the first quarter of this year and the second quarter of this year and the third quarter, like the change within our own team of how much they're using AI, what went from like weekly to now daily, it's really like changed dramatically over the course of this year. So, and we now within Google overall have essentially an AI marketing toolbox to use all of the different technology. For example, we have something called Gems that we use that you can kind of create a little kind of custom use case. For example, like each week, at the end of the week, our team creates snippets of essentially what's gone on around the world. And it used to be somewhat tedious where somebody would type up a snippet. This isn't an unusual thing to kind of create a summary report. But often now you can essentially train it so it can just read an email and create like a 3-line snippet from that whole email that somebody might have written after a really great Google Cloud summit in London. So there's all of this data, and it does a fabulous job if you train it correctly and to create this. So we have on our team something called AI Boost Bites, where our team created that every week there's a new essentially AI challenge that goes out. It's a little 10-minute learning experience where you learn about a technology like Gem and then you try it. And so it's one of the ways that we are training up our whole team to see all the technology that's available and these kind of bite-sized learning experiences. And that seems to be working well with our
Oh,
teams.
that's
I
great.
imagine all of your listeners who are working in organizations are, how do I increase AI literacy and not just have spiky parts of my team that leaned in really early and have those be the go-to people for all things AI and everybody else not, really getting comfortable. We have to lift the AI literacy of everybody on the team. And we've been experimenting with different ways to do that. And Boost Bites has been a real winner.
I love that. Just what a way to upskill, which is, that reminds me of Google was doing that when I was there. I was there and I left in 2016. I think you were just coming on board in 2016, but it's just a testament, truly to, how much they think about how do we invest in the whole org and make sure everyone's upskilling. Is there anything else you're doing besides the bite size? I love that concept. It's like, hey, here's what's new. Check it out. Try it. Anything else that you're doing to kind of level up everyone?
All kinds of things. So we have within Google and something that's almost like a Shark Tank type of thing where people are bringing up new ideas about how they could be using AI and sharing those, and judges voting on the best ones to go put into practice. We have chat groups all the time that everyone's sharing. They're like, hey, I just tried this. This worked really well for me. Or I have this project that I'm trying to get done in the next 24 hours. Anybody suggest how I might be able to use AI to speed that up? So a lot of the learning is just happening organically across teams at the same time. So it's really all over the map. It's everything from organic learning to some type of training to building in workflows. And so there's a change management type of opportunity as well. But I think overall literacy coming up is going to help every part of that.
Is there also like an ELT AI literacy happening just amongst the folks kind of in the ELT? Like, hey, this is how the CFO's been, navigating or using this thing. And like, is there chatter amongst the ELT separately about how AI is impacting your roles individually?
Across the board. I mean, I see it at kind of all levels. And then even at like Cloud Next last year, which is our big conference that we had in Vegas, we had a session there where a number of leaders, like one of our sales leaders, myself as a marketing leader, HR leader, shared with our customers some of what we're using with our own technology. And sometimes we talk about we need to be customer zero of everything that we're building to make sure that we can be get users, test it out, work with our engineers to improve it. But at the same time, I feel like I'm learning from other marketers all the time as well, where they'll share something that they did and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. We need to do that as well. So it's just this period of, it's one of the most fun times to work in marketing is a rapid innovation. And everybody simultaneously feels a little bit behind because you always feel as if somebody else is doing something newer, cooler, more interesting, more integrated. And then you have these like sparks of like, wow, that's super cool. I got that done and I could, much faster or better than I did before. So it's keeping it all in balance.
Again, I feel like the balance is another key superpower that you have across there's no way that to be been able to do what you've done so well if you couldn't access balance. I mean, it's got to be, it's a clear tool in the superpower tool belt, and that's challenging, especially in such a fast moving space, Alison.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to ask my kids or my family if I'm keeping it all in balance, but doing the best that I can.
Yeah. So think about zoom out and think about just the past 8 years plus at Google, leading Google Cloud and Google Workspace, and take us into like a recent challenge a problem you had to really help solve. What was something, bring us into the moment of like, okay, you wake up and here's this really big challenge that's on your desk now or in your inbox or however it got to you. And I want to just kind of get an understanding of how you thought about solving that problem and what you did to solve the problem and who you kind of brought in and what was, kind of the end result of that. I want to let people see like how you think about solving problems at the level that you're at now and some of the things that, again, come on your plate. Like, okay, roll up the sleeves. Alison's going to have to do some deep diving here. What's an example of that?
To give an example of about 2.5 years ago, when if you went in, the old concept of put all your marketing up on a wall and what does it look like? It maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, if we had, a lot of our marketing is digital, but let's just say you kind of put it up in kind of the digital wall it did not have a cohesive story. Maybe in one part of the world, we talked about one set of features, somebody else we weren't really talking as much about AI, but there was not a cohesive and consistent narrative. And so we basically working together with our product marketing team, our demand team, and our creative and brand team and said, we need to have a platform that we're all kind of essentially saying the same thing. And of course, we can have variations of it around the world. And so that's when we put together a brief and started working with an agency and built out the platform that we have now called the New Way to Cloud. And so we basically said, well, what is it that we're trying to show that there's an old way, which is really what our competitors are all about, Microsoft and AWS, and there's a new way, which is how Google Cloud is coming to market with fresher technology perspectives, more collaborative tool sets like Google Workspace, different forms of investment in AI. And so we had to set up this distinction between the old way and the new way, and did this through this new brand platform called the New Way to Cloud. And then it's not about introducing it, it's about how do you make this part of everything that we do. And so it was part of our Cloud Next experience where we based everything about like what's the new way to do something. It's in all of our cloud summits around the world. It's in all of our digital campaigns where we highlighted the old way and the new way. And now, even this year, we've recorded over 150 customers in what we've built out called a Transformation Studio, where they share what they're doing in the new way using our technology. And now have a whole customer series called New Way Now, which is they're showing like, I used to do things this way, or our customers used to have to search for a new product this way. But now in the new way, they can upload a picture of the product they're trying to buy, and we can instantly tell them where to find it and how to buy it. And that's the new way. So we've had to come up with a common platform, integrate it into everything that we're doing, train everybody on our team about how and when, essentially like brand guidelines effectively, and then bring all of our customer storytelling into the same consistent framework. And now we're 2 years into this, and now at least as we build something new, even when the work with MLB, which they catch the game like never before, what's the new way to watch a baseball game? Well, now it has integrated statistics into it. So how do we tell that story that when you used to watch a game, you only could hear what the announcers knew from something in the history, but now Fox Sports can within seconds pull new statistics out because they're Google Cloud customers. Well, that's the new way of doing a broadcast. And so it's become a much better way for us to do customer storytelling in a consistent, cohesive manner around the world. And I feel like we've made progress on that. It's not perfect. Nothing, marketing is always an evolution, but it's one of the areas that it was a big problem. And I'm proud of how we have helped kind of move things forward.
I mean, I'm thinking almost 5 years ago, you came on this show thinking about some of the bets that you made, like saying, okay, this is where I think where it's headed. I think where we're going. What were some of the things that you were right about? And what were some of the things maybe that you were like, oh, you know what? I thought that by this time we'd already be here. That maybe hasn't happened, if at all.
It's interesting. I think the bets have been pretty consistent. 5 years ago, we would have talked about AI, we would have talked about security. It's more about how we leaned into those bets, or even talking about developers. And the challenge is always kind of staying the course when there's new
Right.
opportunities, or when maybe we did an acquisition and so we changed our security messaging some as Mandiant came in. It may seem like Google has unlimited resources, but we're constantly striving and focusing on profitability, and that challenges how much we can invest in marketing and other areas. And so we're constantly making trade-offs about should we invest more here or there. And so I think over time we've turned up and down different parts of our investment and put resources in. And so I think the broad categories probably haven't changed, but how we've invested behind them, and reminding ourselves sometimes like, okay, if we had stayed the course a couple of years ago in some areas, we might be in a different place now. And being
Right.
able to, at this time of year, as we're planning for 2025, where do we want to place bets and stay the course? But also, we have to constantly shave off the areas that are less productive or less successful, or sometimes the long tail of events can really drag down a team because you can use up so much people time. of managing those
Right.
and being really good about just making prioritization. It's just a constant struggle.
Do you see more in-person events being a big part of the flywheel for growth on the Google Cloud product side? And more IRL events happening in 25, or were you still doing a lot of hybrid stuff? Like, where do you see kind of the actual in-person events driving growth next year?
So I think it's kind of leaning behind some of the big ones like our Cloud Next, our Cloud Summits around the world. We have this concept of a live in labs, AI live in labs, where we have a lot of hands-on activities for developers. We've increasingly invested more in shared events with some of the other parts of Google. Like, for example, we now do a CMO AI labs together with our ads counterparts,
Ooh,
where we
that's
can show
cool.
CMOs how to use AI technology in really productive ways for marketing. So events are, live events, certainly critical, but that is not the only thing that we do. And we have to constantly make sure that we trade off those and think through carefully about what we do as Google hosted, first party hosted, and in connection with third party hosted events where we can
Mm.
show up at industry conferences, HIMSS or NRF, or some industry sectors where we need to be there, or sometimes with partners. We've important partnerships with companies like SAP or Salesforce and show up together with them at their events. That's certainly one of the biggest sets of prioritization and trade-offs we need to do at this time of year, thinking about for next year, how much we invest and where we invest.
The other thing that I think it would be interesting to know is sales and marketing alignment. What's if again think about just your past 8 years there, right? What's become more important now for sales and marketing alignment? What's working well to align sales and marketing? Because clearly you got to be nailing that to continue to grow like Google has. Are you seeing new approaches, new strategies that really support sales and marketing alignment in 2024 into 2025? Like, what's working really well across those two orgs?
Yeah, so sales and marketing alignment is super critical for us, and love working with our sales team. And so we work on a regional basis, and then we work with the central teams across sales. And we actually, for the first time this year, had our planning offsite the same week and same location as the sales leadership planning offsite. So we did some shared sessions together where we tackled some of the biggest opportunities we have for next year, which I loved. And it was just really great to be able to trade ideas together and be like, okay, this is how we could do it differently for next year. And so that's just core to what we do. And we think about it with our sales team, the go-to-market teams more broadly, our partner teams. I mean, those are relationships that are 100% essential to how we go to market. And getting as much feedback from our sales teams now is critical so that we can really lean in together and help set them up for success next year.
Are there kind of table stakes tools, technology that just need to be there for sales and marketing now that maybe weren't as priority before? Are there things like, okay, we got to have this tech, or we got to have this approach, whereas maybe in the past that wasn't as a high priority?
I think that sales and marketing integration is always a super high priority. It's whether it's how much data you have to drive that, which is evolving. And so being able to be data driven of like, okay, these types of campaigns work better, or these types of shared content works better, and being able to have both qualitative and quantitative feedback from the market is what I think makes us all better at our jobs.
Okay, I knew this time would come when the end of our conversation is here, and I'm like, this is where I want AI to help us stop time, Alison, so we don't have to have these conversations end so quickly. But I want you to think about, one is there's a certain segment of our audience who are up and coming CMOs, right? We certainly speak to your peers, other Fortune 1000 CMOs, but we also have another ton of director level and managerial level and boots on the ground marketers and marketing leaders who really aim to be where you are and are inspired by your journey. What would you share with them? What would you got to give to that part of the audience, or what advice would you share to someone who really sees you, who's been able to be so relevant and innovative and, at the top of your game consistently in a world where you can blink and be, and not be relevant, right? You've been able to do it so well and really with pride. What would you share to those folks that really, want to be there and are aiming to head that way?
Yeah, so I would say a few things. One is be comfortable taking some risks. So look for white space, look for areas where You might have some specific expertise, or you're following the market, you're looking externally and seeing, hey, like we might have an opportunity here, and be open to proposing a new direction forward and use multiple channels to propose new directions forward. One of them, I would say, show up in the office. If you are at a company that's hybrid or has person elements to it, be there at the beginning of the day, be there at the end of the day, show up at lunches or when there's different groups getting together, or if there's a town hall meeting for the team and some people are doing it online and some people are doing it in person, be in person. Because sometimes just a little bit of a hallway conversation is an opportunity to pitch an idea. I mean, interestingly, the very first phase of my tech career, way back when at Intuit, when I started the Quicken Loans business for Intuit, the conversation came about as a hallway conversation with someone who had happened to interview me, where I said, oh, the internet's growing and I think we have an opportunity. And he said, oh, the chairman of the company is looking for someone to investigate the mortgage industry. And it was a hallway conversation. I said, I'll do that. Let me go ahead and take a couple weeks to put together an initial business plan, and proposed it. But had I never had that serendipitous hallway conversation, I'm not sure what Quicken Loans, like whether we would have started it, launched it. I'm sure some different version of it. But at that point in time, that was an opportunity for me in my 26-year-old kind of mindset of oh, let's bring it. So that would be certainly number one, is looking for white spaces. And number two is ensuring that you're always kind of keeping a pulse on what's happening outside of the company. It's easy to get very internally focused all the time, and to be able to see what other companies are doing well, what other things are not working as well, and bringing some of those fresh ideas into your own company is just an opportunity to move forward. And three is taking the time to build some personal relationships within whatever company that you're in. If you hit it off with someone in a short, digital Google Meet, and you're like, oh, I think I really liked the way that person was thinking, ask them to meet for coffee or find a way to engage, because you never really know where some of those personal relationships will lead and where opportunities will come from. And I feel like one of the outcomes of what happened with COVID, when everybody was working digitally for so long, is that we missed some of those opportunities to spark conversations and build some of those human connections. And I think some of the most creative work comes from those types of conversations, and want to ensure that everybody's really leaning into relationships and the creativity that comes from those kinds of diverse viewpoints that can best be built out together, often in person.
I love all of that. I mean, like a truly, masterclass mic drop moment in how to be thinking about a career and what are the things that you can do to position yourself to be relevant. I love all of that. Alison, this was exceptional. I mean, this to me, again, I mean, I've been hosting for almost 4 years. You were one of the ones that I was like, we got to get Alison back on. So for me, as I, shift into other things as well, this has been just a moment in my, my time here that's been incredible. So shout out to you and the whole squad at Google. I know that I inevitably will be paying attention to where the puck is headed, and just what a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to share my journey and highlight all of the great work that our team has been doing. And we know the best is yet to come.